All right, welcome back for more. As Rat would say, a song co-written by my next guest. After this guest, the great Stephen Piercy, who is the only sponsor of this show, as he has given me 3 sets of Mike Knuckles to look tough. But today's not about Stephen Piercy. Today's about one. He's what they call in the business a real comer. He's one of the rising stars of not just the Comedy Store, but the stand-up world overall, now touring the world with Joe Rogan. But he's going to be having someone open up for him in the very near future. Put your grubby little hands together for the Golden Pony. You can buy his T-shirts online. Mr. Tony Hinchcliffe.
Yeah, what's up? Big Earl. I'm glad to be here. I want to get inappropriate with you.
Dude, you are just taking the comedy world by storm. I remember when you were just a young buck in the back of the room with your afro.
That's right.
And now you're like...
Now I have a shorter haircut and I'm actually doing stuff. It's pretty exciting. It's fun.
I mean, I want to get the real Tony Hinchcliffe out there. You have this persona, this almost Rick Rude, Rick Martel.
I do love being the bad guy. I don't mind it. I really enjoy just being the guy that some people are afraid to be around. You know what I mean? Like there's a scene in the movie A Bronx Tale where the mob boss goes, "It's better to be feared than to be loved." He teaches the little kid that.
Yeah, but you're like a heel that everyone loves. Like,
yeah,
you annoy people, but they love you.
Yeah, it's tough. It's a fine line to walk, and sometimes once every few years with everybody, I go a little bit too far and step on a toe, and I have to take a step back.
That's your whole shtick, though. I love it, though.
It's true. I own it, man. It's true. For a while, I was afraid to own up to it. I didn't want to be considered like a guy that people don't like and this and that around the clubs. But, after a while, I'm just like, screw it. I can own this and be a good bad guy. And I really do draw it from a lot of WWE like bad guy stuff. I've always been a huge pro wrestling fan. And I think there's not enough of that in stand-up. I know you're totally in that same realm of being a wrestling fan who you could tell is a wrestling fan when he's on stage. I'm sort of the same way. I like to do like a little Randy Orton hands up, give me the applause I deserve when I first get on stage, and then I just follow it up with usually edgy walk the line material.
Now, when you open up for Rogan, his fan base is, they like the UFC, and I'm assuming most, if not all, have some yearnings of pro wrestling in their blood. How does that go over with that crowd?
Oh my God, it's the best. I mean, it really connects hard with them. They're really great comedy fans, and they go crazy. They, the Golden Pony, they get that. They love it. They'll start yelling it. Like last weekend, I did a show with Brian Callen and me before Joe Rogan, and Brian Callen went up first, and he brought me up. And I told him, he goes, "What do you want me to say before you bring him up?" And I go, "You could just say I write for the Comedy Central roast and that I have the podcast Kill Tony." And he goes, "All right, that's my time, everybody." Crowd goes crazy. It's like a 4,000 seat theater in Vancouver, and Canada already has crazy enough fans on top of Rogan fans, so it's already like extreme. And Callen goes, "Well, this next guy, he writes for the Comedy Central roast, and he has a podcast. It's called and he forgets." And the whole crowd just starts screaming in this chant of "Kill Tony, kill Tony, kill Tony."
Oh, wow.
And it was one of the highlights of my career, without a doubt. And on top of that, it's totally right in that pro wrestling realm that I think they get. And, it all started sort of by accident. Like I got the nickname the Golden Pony. I really didn't even like it in the beginning because it was stupid. It was about a bunch of guys, comedians would get together and play Risk in the main room, green room during the day. And I hated that game, so I'd never play with them, but I'd just come in and bust their balls while they were playing. And there's a piece called the Golden Pony that just like isn't even anybody's piece. And I would always say, "Who's the Golden Pony?" And Benji would go, "You're the Golden Pony, Tony." And it just stuck.
Now, what is the difference between Rogan crowds and Jeff Ross crowds, who you used to open with?
Rogan crowds are a lot more they're actually, surprisingly enough, they're a little bit calmer than Jeff Ross.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's actually the opposite of how you would think it would be. Like those UFC guys, like they have there's a stigma that Rogan has this wild UFC following. And sure, you'll see a few UFC t-shirts and stuff when you're out there, but those guys sort of have an outlet. You know what I mean? Right. Like they do work out and they do hit a punching bag and stuff like that. Now, like whereas, for example, and also, Rogan also has this huge reputation for, which is true, for being like the enforcer of comedy. When he got Mencia to fess up to his sins.
Oh yeah.
He got a very authentic, awesome comedy crowd that loves comedy more than anyone. A lot of people, jumped on that. Whereas with Jeff, it can be crazy because people that love roasting, now that's when you're mixing comedy and right. sort of fighting in a way. And so they're a little bit more wild. Like you could have a few real hot fires going in a big audience of Jeff Ross fans. You can have some crazy blonde chicks that have never been to a comedy show before. Like I had a lot of wild hecklers when on the road with Jeff. Whereas with Rogan, it's very, very, very well behaved, because also his huge podcast that he does, that gets millions of views. He's very philosophical and, about learning and stuff. So it's actually a really shockingly brilliant, smart crowd that Rogan has.
Yeah, he's into like the Martians and the aliens. And, that's a little too deep for me. But.
Well, I don't think he believes in any of that, but he loves questioning stuff and talking about it. And it is pretty wild. I mean, I get into some deep talks with him. He's got an amazing brain. He's also, another thing about Rogan that cracks me up is he's the nicest guy that I've ever met in all of comedy. And I'm pretty sure he's not always been that way. I'm pretty sure you have to grow into that, and it takes success and validation and a lot to get there. But ever since I met him in, 2009, 2010, he's been always the nicest.
He's probably the toughest guy in comedy.
Oh, without a doubt.
I mean, he's like I think he's like a 2nd-degree black belt.
He is ripped. The other day, that same show in Vancouver with him and Callan, there was a UFC guy in the crowd because the UFC was the next night. Right. So one of the fighters that was fighting the next day in a big fight was there to support Brian and Joe because he knows them. And so Callan went up first, and he had this Matt Schaub t-shirt that he wore on stage in support of Matt.
Oh, right.
And so in between, after Brian's set, him and Joe switched shirts. And there was a moment where they were both shirtless in the green room switching shirts. And I mean, Rogan looks like...
It's a big dude.
Oh my God. He's just wide and he's ripped and he's cut and his body's incredible. That next morning I was in the gym for the first time in like a year, just pumping iron. I almost threw up. I worked out so hard. And when I got home, I bought a pair of dumbbells and I've been working out, lifting every day since, because it really inspired me, because I just turned 30 last week or a couple weeks ago. And I'm realizing that I don't want to look like a little biatch my whole life, So.
No, but you got a good body. You got a lean, like a welterweight body, no fat. You're pretty ripped. I mean, yeah.
But I'm going for it now. Now I'm trying to catch up to you, Big Earl. You're the real protein package of the Comedy Store. So.
Well, I'm like Rogan with absolutely no fighting ability. I'm just smoke and mirrors. Like, I can't fight at all.
You're like the pro wrestling version of Rogan.
Yeah, I'm like Rick Rude.
You're like Hulk Rogan,
brother. Yeah, and now speaking of wrestling and roasting, we have I don't know if the date has been set yet, but I think it's in a few weeks at the Comedy Store, a return of the Iron Sheik.
Oh, I can't wait. This is going to be amazing. We had so much fun roasting the Iron Sheik. There's an amazing video out on YouTube called Tony Hinchcliffe Roasting the Iron Sheik, and it's me and you. You're in the background. It's an amazing, amazing video because of what happened during this set. Like, this video could have made my career, but Luke zoomed in a little bit too hard, and it's just me and you're playing a character that doesn't find anything funny. So I'm killing on this set.
You really were.
And you're just in the background with a plain look on your face. So if you read the comments, it's like, what's up with that Ultimate Warrior having a bad time?
Warrior doesn't laugh. And plus, I started getting the paint in my eye. Because Jordan Lee had literally put the paint like on my fucking eyeball. So, and then I got in trouble because I started rubbing the paint on the fucking curtain, and only the Comedy Store would like get mad at that, while hundreds of comics have dumped loads on that carpet.
Imagine how hard it must have been for the Ultimate Warrior, who actually had to wrestle with that face paint on.
Well, it killed him eventually. I mean, that was I cried.
Oh, that was crazy. I had just gotten the WWE Network, and I watched that Hall of Fame speech, and I watched that Raw clip, and the next day when he passed away, I mean, that is some crazy stuff. He had to have known that something was wrong. He had to just have been holding on long enough to get all that stuff out. The things he talked about, he was basically giving a verbal will. Like he was saying, fans live on without me. Once I'm gone, my spirit will live on. And then he had a heart attack. Like where does people say pro wrestling's fake? I mean, make that happen.
I mean, I really think he was trying to die in the ring. His timing was always a little off. But, I mean, he was a pretty stiff wrestler.
Yeah.
Well, the best part was like a week later, and you should really watch this. I mean, I know you're not the biggest fan of his. I mean, they did like a 4-hour tribute to him.
Yeah.
And the third hour was the $1 Million Man, Sergeant Slaughter, and like I think 2 other guys, and all 4 guys clearly didn't like the Warrior, but they were being forced to say nice things about him, and it's really funny to see them try and act like they liked him.
Well, I remember Ted DiBiase was in the hate video of the Warrior, so
yeah,
that's quite the flip to have him saying things.
And they did have a great match, I think, in Japan, and so But my favorite Warrior video is the shoot video he did on Hogan.
Oh, it's the best.
For an hour. I listen to it at least once a week.
It's the best.
Because it's so fucking funny. You're a real piece of shit, Terry. And he just, I mean, negativity and Hulkamania go together like peanut butter and jelly, brother.
And he looks directly straight at camera.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So, it's sad how many of these guys die so young.
Oh, it's crazy. But I sort of, being in stand-up these last few years, I really start to understand it. It's, I know that I sort of have the same thing where you have a fun set and you just sort of want to keep that momentum up. I know you don't partake in drinking or smoking pot, but I do. And I'll tell you, nothing is more fun. People that don't know might think that you do it after a bad set. Well, that's really not the case. Like a bad set you can handle afterwards. It's a great set when things are going amazing you're trying to chase that dragon afterwards. You're like, oh, I was having so much fun on stage. So I can't even imagine what it's like being in a wrestling ring with tens of thousands of people screaming and hollering, and you just put on an amazing match. So like those guys, on top of that, the crazy road schedule, I can't even imagine. I just watched an interview with John Cena where he said that he's only home 1 or 2 days a month. And
look out, they still have to work out.
Oh,
like look at when we're on the road, imagine the travel and you still got to work out for 3 hours.
It's crazy.
And juice up to the gills.
Oh man. Well, without the juice, I don't even know if it's possible. I mean, when I'm on the road, that's when I catch up on like Maury Povich and stuff like that. I mean, it's the opposite of working out.
Oh yeah. I mean, I sleep, I jack off.
Yeah.
And of course there's the phone ringing, but this podcast is, it's a work in progress, and
long-time listener, first-time caller, I believe we have.
We're taking calls. So, sorry about that. One time Don Fry was here, and he took a phone call, so
oh wow,
I had to stretch it out. But now, your home base is the Comedy Store, right?
Yeah.
And what do you like best about the store more than the other clubs in the city?
Oh, I like so many things more. For example, it's just a great place to hang out. There's a bunch of comedians there that, you can relate to and you can talk to and you can riff with. Because being a comedian, the onstage is, the part-time job of it. But living it and, being a goofball all the time and finding other goofballs. I mean, me and you, for example, really connect on this because not only are we both goofy all the time, but we really ramp up, in my opinion, as the night goes on. I mean, you and I are known as two of the back of the room assassins, late night when it gets after midnight, closer to 1, definitely closer to 2. That's when we're setting up camp in the back, getting ready to fire off bullets. I mean, that's when our wheels really start turning.
Well, there's so much talent in the room late night. Well, maybe not so much, but there's some talent in the room. And then usually Don Barris is on stage, right. And there's just a tremendous energy, and it's hard to explain to people who've never been there. You've got homeless black guys sleeping in the back, guys smoking pot as the show's going on, and just mayhem.
Yeah, there's a lot to make jokes of. It's usually when the young guys get their best hazings.
What was your first hazing at the store? Because you started, let's get to you come from Youngstown, Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Did you think New York or LA, or were you always LA?
I was thinking about it, but it was pretty one-sided. It was pretty one-sided argument. I mean, New York was closer, and I would have been closer to my family in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, but it's the weather and the lifestyle out here. I'm easily controlled by the weather. A rainy day, it's hard for me to pretend like I'm having a blast. I came out here, and man, I walked right into a haze fest because the hosts at the time, Dennis and O'Neill, very, very ruthless. But it was also awesome because it helped mold me into, I knew that's actually part of the reason why I fell in love with the store, was because it was so real and raw and authentic and not supportive. Like, who needs support when you're going to be investing in something as hard as stand-up comedy? Like, I figure why not just burn the soul away and get rough and down and dirty early on and, have it there. But I'll tell you, like Mac Lindsay, for example, really took a liking to ruining all of my sets when I first started. So he would do this thing where, I had just gotten hired there. I got hired there like after a month of doing stand-up. And next thing you know, I'd be so excited looking forward to my once a week set that they give an employee there.
3 minutes.
Right. 3 minutes. And I'd be working on it all week and trying to put it together. And it's your chance to do good and move up a spot, at the store, move up the ranks. So I'd be working on it all week, and then I'd get on stage and I'd be like nervous and excited back when in the first few months when I still got nervous, which was an exciting time. And then I'd see Mac Lindsay, this tough tattoo covered. I mean, this guy's got a tattoo of the Comedy Store on him at this point. So you can tell, I mean, this guy's really a part of the club. He's like a Bill Hicks type of yelling, aggressive, punk rock. Like, he's a lot of things. And he was a hell of a hazer. So what he would do is I'd get on stage and I go, "Hey, everybody, how are you?" And all of a sudden I'd hear, "We're good," like in the same volume level of my mic, because he was on a side mic where the piano guy normally sits. He'd move the piano guy out of his spot, and he would sit there and he would just respond to like all the rhetorical questions and stuff. And sometimes he would just turn my mic all the way down and just start talking or yelling into his mic. Like, he would do this oftentimes like punk rock type of like heavy metal, like growling noise. Right. And so I really didn't get many sets out in the very beginning. Like, he would just completely ruin it. And what's crazy is I'd never even complained about it or talked to him about it. Like, I would just completely ignore it because I didn't want to annoy him and I didn't want to bother anybody. Like, I really just took it.
Right.
But I think it helps to do that stuff. Sometimes I see guys that come from other clubs and like aren't used to the store and stuff, and they get a heckle from an audience member, from something, or somebody drops a drink or somebody falls, and they don't know how to handle that stuff. Whereas like at the Comedy Store, you learn that black and red NWO style of comedy. You can roll with anything, and you almost want stuff like that to happen so that you can show off that muscle that's built at the store of being able to roll with things in the moment. And so, I'm very grateful for that, because that's become a huge part of my style that, people see on the road and stuff, is just me talking about whatever I see and what's different in the city, and I try to cover all these bases when I'm out there. And if I see something crazy happen with an audience, guy comes in late and sits in the front row, he's getting it. One time there was I did this big show with Rogan, another theater in Sacramento, and there was a hand signal, like what is it? A deaf person,
sign language,
a sign language person, next to the stage, and they have to face outward, so they can't face the comedian. They're facing outward, and they're giving hand signals for whatever they do. And it was a guy. And the first thing I did was, oh my God, I can't believe this. There's a sign language person here. The crowd's already with me, like noticing that I'm just keeping it real. And my excitement is drawn in, because I had been doing stand-up every night for 6 years by the time I had my first sign language guy next to the stage. And then by the time I realized, one part during the set, I said the word blowjob, and I realized that this guy has to do this miming of a jerking off above his head hand signal. And so like I turned that into a whole thing, and the poor guy quit by the end of my set. He walked away because I just kept saying blowjob over and over again while the crowd was roaring with applause, and this guy had to pretend like he was jerking somebody off over his head.
Well, you didn't say eating pussy, did you?
No. Oh, what is interesting though is I said black dick at one point, and it was longer. His hand signal was longer than regular dick.
Yeah.
Like it was girthier and longer. So like the stroke that he was doing was more extreme and pronounced, almost like he was working a trombone or something.
Well, I mean, if you've ever seen a black dick, man, they are pretty, if you've ever seen a Lexington Steel video, it's, that guy's the real deal.
Oh yeah. I've watched him destroy a lot of, that's like the final boss on a video game for a lot of these porn stars, right? Like you beat you take Lexington Steel all the way down. Congratulations. You beat the final boss, but also your vagina is going to look like a baseball mitt from now on. So
dude, and there's another guy with a dick even bigger than his, Castro from Miami. It's Google it, man.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about. Is that the guy with like a giant birthmark of some kind? Like it looks like he has a tumor.
No, I think that's Mr. Marcus.
Oh yeah, it is. It is. Yeah.
And Ron, getting back to the Comedy Store. No, Ron Jeremy was there last night.
He was.
He fell asleep toward the last half of the show, but
oh man, I bet.
So
I saw him pull in the parking lot.
He's a good looking dude.
Yeah, it's real interesting. I didn't see him pull out though, which is a surprise because normally I do see him pull out.
He's got a big dong, but he doesn't. It's just so surreal. The Comedy Store, when you see the most famous porn star of all time just passed out.
Yeah.
Well, some guy's trying to do jokes about his family or something.
I don't know how he still does it. I don't know. I can't imagine what his heart must feel like when he has a boner now. Like it's got to be rough on him.
I mean, I think he had a heart attack recently.
Yeah, he did. He did.
I mean, he's. I mean, it's amazing he's still alive, and only the Comedy Store would let a aging porn star like. There's so much that goes on up there that doesn't go on in any other club.
Right.
Fights, blowjobs on stage. I don't even think the roast battle could happen at any other club.
No, definitely not. It's such a home to comedians. And, all of a sudden in a night, and an average audience member that goes there might not realize this. They probably think they're surrounded by other audience members having a good time. But at any point, you could be surrounded by 40, 50, 60 comedians. So in the roast battle, nights like that, it can get up to 50, 60, 70. Kill Tony, my podcast that I do live on Mondays there, that gets a guaranteed 30, 40, 50.
Oh, I love it in there, dude.
They all sign up, and it gets crazy.
Now, you did probably the biggest roast battle of all time.
Yeah, that was interesting. Did a little favor for my friends who run it and signed up to get embarrassed in front of my peers. It was a blast.
Yeah, but that was a great... describe the nerves that... I mean, that's a very unique... It's like a ECW wrestling show.
Totally. Pretty powerful nerves. And, the one thing that I wasn't expecting was the heat in the room, because they were double, triple sold out. And the people got in there way early, and they were doing comedy and this and that, and it got really hot in there. You remember this? It was like 100 degrees.
Well, they didn't have the AC on.
Right.
And
it was just a complete debacle. So I never even caught my breath all the way. From the second that I got brought up, I wanted it to be over. Like,
well, you were wearing a sweater too.
Well, that too.
That's your look, though.
Exactly. So normally I can handle the heat. Normally I can handle the cardigan, but it was ridiculously hot in there.
I mean, I've only done one battle, and it was one of the early ones.
Oh, I didn't know that. Who'd you battle?
Well, this is what you would call a squash match. It was Boone Shakalaka.
Oh.
Who you might think that's an easy match, but he was hard because he only said the same. He kept saying the same line over and over again, and it was just hard to... so I'm 1-0 technically, but I mean, I was basically roasting the Brooklyn Brawler.
Right.
But you had a tough assignment because you're roasting like the nicest guy up there.
The nicest guy, the best.
Funny, very incredibly funny.
By far the nicest guy. I mean, this guy takes care of his parents, and it just has the best, always positive attitude. Never burnt a bridge with anybody. I knew I couldn't win. He was also 4-0. He was the defending champ. They wanted me to do it. They said, "Who do you want?" I said, "Give me the champ." Made a fun storyline, and honest to God, I knew I didn't have a chance. There's no jokes in the world and I play up again. This is one that I really played up the bad guy thing for. I mean, I came out doing the sign of the cross, blessing him because I was going to bury him. I told him it was nacho night.
Because he stumbled on the first line.
Oh, yeah.
Or maybe it was the second joke, and you really pounced on him like a shark.
Yeah, I go, "You want me to punch that up for you?"
You said, what would you say? It's not tripping on Thursdays. It's
over here. It's tripping on Tuesday because the Black Wave was there, a bunch of black people, and that's an urban show. I said, you got tripping on Tuesday over here and tripping on words over here,
and it got a huge laugh. And I mean, it was. I thought it was a pretty even roast, But how do you go about and this is part of the reason why I don't think I could ever do it again. How do you roast someone so nice? How do you come up with mean things to say about him?
It's really tough. And, a lot of there's a lot more to that, too, because, one thing to make fun of Jesus about, if you know him, is his teeth, and he doesn't smile during the roasts. And another thing to make fun of is his, he talks about it a lot, his big comb over. He has just a pile of hair that he strategically places in a certain direction, and it looks like he has hair, but he wore a hat at the roast battle, which was, all of a sudden you're crossing off jokes in your head like, oh, okay, there goes the 4 teeth jokes because he doesn't smile. There goes 6 hair jokes which were, ace hair jokes, you know what I mean? Ready to decimate the room. So I ended up having to sort of just attack the fact that he's Mexican, and it's really tough doing it even though he's a nice guy, but that's a big part of roasting in the tradition. I've been in that game for a few years with Jeff and this and that, so you get used to roasting people that you respect and that you like, because that's really part of it. It's actually a lot harder to roast somebody that you don't like, especially in a situation like that, because you got the passion and you're getting angry, and then he's getting angry, and you don't know where it's gonna go, and you might have something up your sleeve, but you don't know what he has up his sleeve. So it's sort of safer to battle somebody who you respect, in my opinion, than somebody who could lose their temper, this and that. I could probably take 1 punch, but if somebody lands 2, I'm out like a light. So
well, like that one roast with Virginia, Jeff's girlfriend, and it was Candace Thompson.
That was great.
But I thought they were friends, but about halfway through, I'm like, I don't think they really like each other. I mean, it was a great roast.
Yeah.
But it got real fast.
Well, that's a must-win situation for both. Candace is a funny girl who works the grind on stand-up, so she's like sort of the representative of the comedians in that, where Virginia's sort of like the bad girl roasting royalty. You know what I mean? Coming from the Jeff Ross camp as well, and so Virginia's got a ton to prove there. So that's a real battle of the Titans, and that's a great way to measure how good a battle's going to be at that thing, because you can really get who has to prove themselves. If somebody's a loser and they don't care, like your Matt Taylor's, Matt Taylor doesn't care. He doesn't want the respect of comedians, whereas a Candace Thompson and a Virginia, that's really what that room's about, is getting the respect of the comedians. Even if somebody loses that thing, you can put on a great show and, and everybody loves you because you put on a great show, and we know that it's all for them. Now, again, mine was a little bit different because they had, count it, 70 industry people in the room. So
that's crazy.
On top of everything else, they had executives from Warner Brothers, Comedy Central, MTV, FX, TBS. I mean, it was a nightmare.
Yeah, but it was great, though. I mean, you guys were two top comics, and, Attell was a judge, and who else was a judge for you?
Bill Burr.
Bill Burr. I mean, and a monster. And was it Hannibal Buress? Maybe?
Oh no, it was Earl Battle.
Oh, okay. I mean, Bill Burr was just probably my favorite part of that roast was when Boone Shakalaka, who's the homeless transvestite, was doing his. He basically is the warm up. And Bill Burr couldn't take his eyes off of him. He was taking pictures of him. And like, when you captivate Bill Burr, you're doing something right.
Yeah, totally.
And,
totally.
It's just such a fun atmosphere up there.
Yeah.
And
Dave Attell was really funny. He knows me, and I opened up for him actually the week or two before that. But he was so funny. He pretended like he didn't know me. And I sort of look, I have jokes about it, like how I'm sort of gay looking, like I have pronounced bone structure and I'm skinny and I take care of myself. And so he had a funny line. He goes, and the other guy over there, I don't know whether you're Neil, Patrick, or Harris, but he kept doing a thing where he couldn't remember anybody's name. He called Jesus Jose and then Jesus and all these different names. It was funny.
Yeah, I mean, he's such a super nice guy.
Oh, yeah. Attell's a monster.
Oh, and Burr's I mean, Jeff Ross. I mean, it's just like so much pressure in that room.
Oh, it was insane.
And
it was insane. There was enough pressure in that room to have me nervous for 3 different events. You know what I mean? Like, I could have spread that out. And again, I mean, the heat is the thing that rises to the top of my mind first, because it was hot, man. It felt like closer to 110 than even 100. It was hot to me.
And it's getting bigger. I mean, like the crowds, the energy. I mean, tonight there's one with 2 black dudes. And
it's a big night for you because you're the house racist.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting tougher to write racist jokes, but, I do my best. And, it's not easy to appear racist and be funny. I mean, there's only so many things you can say. But luckily for me, the BET Awards were this weekend, so...
oh, yes.
There always seems to be something recently to help me out, like the Donald Sterling thing. And
just when it gets tough to write a racist joke.
Well, you write not racist jokes, but like... it's tough to write on the same theme for 8 months.
It really is.
I mean, I'm tapped out.
It really is. It gets really rough, and you got to utilize the topical things, in anything. You can utilize like a Hobby Lobby joke might be funny tonight from you. Like,
see, I don't even know what that is.
Oh, the Hobby Lobby thing just happened, where this place called Hobby Lobby that has Christian owners decided they had a Supreme Court case, and the Supreme Court case said that they're allowed to decide who gets pregnancy pills, birth control pills. So the Supreme Court decided that a Christian business can, while giving people medical benefits, can decide to not cover birth control.
Right.
So like there might be something there, like, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I'll have to after you leave. You know,
yeah.
I have to you know,
pitch some magic.
well, you know, I'll do my best, and then, you know, Whitney does her thing, and she's great, and
Yeah, you guys are amazing together.
I mean, I had to bring her in. I mean, I don't know, you know, last week she made out with Jamar Neighbors, which, you know,
That was amazing. I hope you guys are going to acknowledge that tonight.
oh,
Right?
of course,
Yeah.
you know, I might make out with Leslie Jones.
Oh yeah, I would pay to see that, brother.
I mean, you know, you have, well, that's the thing, you have to
You have to lose yourself in the character.
you know, and you know, hopefully no one thinks it's a real character. I mean, you know, it's just
No, of course.
a lot of racists in this world, and I'm almost making fun of white people doing it, which is
Right.
the intent.
Well, the more you go for it, the more it seems like a character. Like people realize that you could never possibly be that racist. You know what I mean? It's in my opinion, it's more racist or less charactery when you just get one or two or three in. Like it's like, but if you really pound them and go for it, you know.
I get nervous doing it, man.
Really?
I don't want to bomb up there. It's the energy's like last week, my first line, kind of the mic cut out, so I repeated it and didn't really.
That was another thing that happened during my roast battle. Is the mic gave out twice on my two opening jokes,
Right.
like at the start of a round, and it drove me crazy. Like I wanted to really freak out. Because another thing is, you know, with my stand-up style and this and that, I like to keep it real and talk about if I'm mad and this and that, but you can't do that in there. You just got to stay in the pocket and stay calm. So when there's a technical issue and all that energy is trapped in that belly room, oh my God, it's crazy.
I mean, if you're local to the LA scene, you must check out a roast battle. It's
every Tuesday at midnight at the belly room of the Comedy Store. Get there at about 11:30.
yeah. I mean, it's standing room only, and
Yeah.
it's. You know, I'm looking forward to the one I think it's 2 weeks where your friend Kim.
Yeah.
How do you say it? Condon or Congdon?
Congdon.
She's going up against Amy Cheapo.
Yeah.
And they're not friends. I think they're more acquaintances.
I think they really don't like each other.
You know,
Amy Cheapo's from sort of like the outside. She works a lot of open mics, but not really a store person. Whereas Kim was, you know, Kim is one of only two Kill Tony regulars, so she is way in at the store.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, there regularly. So again, it's sort of like that insider versus outsider, but Kim has less experience, but sort of more experience because she's more dialed in, does more spots, writes more new stuff. So it'll be an amazing one. I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm sure my name's going to come up at least 5 times. So,
well, I tried to give Kim a little bit of advice last night. You know, because I know Amy, let's just say, you know, how what I love about this roast is everyone helps everyone.
right.
And I think you're smart if you take the help.
Yeah.
I think a few people have gone in like, I don't want any help. I want to do it on my own. And I think it's a huge mistake, you know, and I know Amy, let's just say she's got some real assassins on the payroll.
Yeah, she definitely has a payroll leverage.
And, you know, I thought I actually mentioned your name and Benji to Kim. I'm like, listen, you know, don't let your ego get in the way. You know, use guys like Tony and Benji to help you because you're going to need it.
No, yeah, definitely.
I mean, if I was doing it, I would ask you, Dave Taylor, and Benji, and
Absolutely.
Danish and O'Neill.
Right.
I want blood.
That's right.
So,
Well, you know, you got to go with the people that know that stuff. And me, Benji, and Dave all on roast writing stuffs at one point or another. So
now you write for well, is the Burn coming back?
yeah, it's coming back in a different format at some point. We're going to find out more in the very near future, but it was never canceled, and we're rebuilding a new model of it. So I don't know much.
And of course, you write for the Comedy Central roast.
Yeah, I got another one coming up, hopefully at the end of September.
Do you guys know who yet?
No, unfortunately not. We always find out. I've always been surprised about that. They really don't know until about a month before. They book it and they keep it secret and tip-top secret for a week or two, and then about a few weeks before, word gets out.
Now, do you guys have any input? Like, hey, do you and Jeff and like Sarah Tiana, I think she, works with you guys, Benji, do you guys go to a Comedy Central exec and say, hey, how about these? Do you give them a list of people you want to roast?
No, they take care of that themselves. They sort of know, and they have their ballpark of what they're shooting for, and I think they work down their own list. We just end up finding out sort of after the fact. And I mean, Jeff obviously has a bigger role in that than any of us.
Right.
Jeff's actually one of the producers of the roast and has been for years, so he's in on that. But now, I mean. But they always have good options. It scared me one time when they said they were going to do Kid Rock. I did not want to roast Kid Rock. I mean,
why not?
It just seems like he had been out of the news for a long time, and it's just he's sort of just like out of the news. I mean, just not topical. So I feel like we would have given a resurgence to some guy's career, and instead that year ended up being Charlie Sheen, who was at the end of a meltdown, was on every single news story and every magazine and at the time. So it was quite the opposite, going from, are we going to have to roast Kid Rock, to, oh my God, Charlie Sheen's going to make his return to TV on this Comedy Central roast. Sure enough, most watched comedy event of all time, live on Comedy Central, most watched any event, non-sporting event ever in Canada. So out of the history of TV in Canada, non-sporting event most watched ever was Sheen. It beat everything.
Now describe the process from day one to the night of the show. You get Charlie Sheen's name, and then you just bunker down and go on the internet. And
first thing I do is I sit there for about 10, 20 minutes and just breathe and think calmly and try to clear my mind and just think outside of different angles before I even look up the Wikipedia. And normally I have this Wikipedia process where if it's on Wikipedia, then I do a measuring thing of how much I think people know about that thing. Like, you can't really go inside too much unless you explain it in the joke. So you could say, Charlie Sheen's mom is Jewish and his dad is Mexican, bobbity ba, punchline. So yeah, it's a very long process though. For something like Sheen, I worked probably about, 6-7 hours a day, 5 days a week for about a month.
And are you in a room with other Jeff and
well, that one was an interesting one because I worked with Jeff mostly on that one, but I worked with John Lovitz on that.
Oh, really?
And Steve-O, but yeah, I worked with them at Jeff's house. Actually, we had a thing where we just set up battle camp at the Roastmaster estate, and it's fun. We sort of just sit there in the sun and in the shade, and you walk around. You can't really stay in one place at one time when you're on a centralized target, sort of like what you're talking about with the roast battle and the racist thing. Like, it's good to walk around and to get a different perspective, go sit by the pool, go sit in a dark corner, just try to hit different angles. And when something hits you, that's the one thing that is amazing about writing for the roast, is that I know when I just came up with one that's going to have a huge rippling effect. Like, sometimes I know the one that's going to be on in magazine and in write-ups the next day.
Isn't it the best?
It's amazing.
It's a sexual feeling when you get it in your stomach. That's the one.
It really is. It really is. And nothing is more exciting than that part, especially when, there's the part where you think of it, which is really the most exciting, because you get this smile on your face and your eyes get big, and all the other writers look at you like, what? And they know because they get excited. So then they're smiling, and because when you get a pop like that and you see somebody change physically, you know after watching them for hours and hours and hours that they're about to get a gem, and that's when you just let it rip. And,
right. Yeah. How do you deal with the reject? I mean, how many jokes get rejected? How do you? Is there a certain point where
I've never had a joke that I really, really believed in not get said? I'll fight for it, and it always works.
Really?
Yeah. That's why I'm able to stay in that realm and that trade like that and keep working my way up, is because I know how it works really, really well. And especially, you know, there's a whole thing about formatting that people don't really factor in. Like, where is the joke placed? Is it the opener? Is it the close? I mean, the difference between these things is huge. In one position, it'll destroy a room. In another position, you could probably hear a cricket. So, you know, it all really, there's so many factors and things like that. But if I've ever said to anyone, especially Jeff, who really trusts me, you know, if I'm like, no, you gotta try this one, he'll totally trust me and do it. And he'll laugh about how, you know, he didn't, you know, maybe it's like a reference that he doesn't know, you know, like just how I just mentioned Hobby Lobby to you, you know, some people didn't watch the news on the same day as me or whatever, you know, but and there's also that part where I go, but you have to accentuate this word, you know what I mean, or whatever. But Jeff what's amazing about him is he's just, not only is he a killer writer, I mean, he came from the Kimmel team of the Man Show. That's when he first moved to LA after, you know, doing so much fun stuff in New York and the Friars Club and Letterman and this and that. But anyway, he started writing with Kimmel, and he's written on everything that he's done ever since then.
Well, he's great, man.
But the performer in him during those roasts, I mean, he just turns into an unstoppable monster. It's really, really exciting to watch when the final thing goes in the prompter and, you know, the final edits are made. He's confident and cool and absolutely kills it. And it's really exciting to watch, really inspirational to see somebody just, because there is a part when you go from writer to performer where you just got to flip a switch and go, that's the final edit. I trust it. I think it's going to be funny. And you really got to believe this, you know, and anybody can get in their head about anything afterwards. You could have the most amazing script ever. And if you don't believe in yourself, then is it really the most amazing script ever? So it's just really great to watch him make that flip from writer to performer and then kill it.
Oh, I mean, I don't think you worked on this roast because this might have been before you guys came on board. But when he did the Gene Simmons roast, were you on that?
No, that was before my time.
I mean, since I'm a big Kiss fan, and you know, it was just so neat to see. You could tell he was a Kiss fan too, and it was just neat to see him like do these mean-spirited jokes toward Gene Simmons.
Yeah.
And with the glee of like, wow, I get to, because I don't think a lot of people realize that roasting is a form of tribute.
Oh, yeah, totally.
Like, if you don't like someone, you don't roast them.
Right, exactly. And like I was saying about the battle, I think that's where the roast battle and roasting actually differ. Is the battle, sometimes people who don't know each other and don't like each other will battle. Whereas with roasting, it's normally a respect thing. And yeah, Jeff's a huge Kiss fan. In fact, he made a video, I don't know if you ever saw it, to try to get them into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame this past year, and they ended up getting in.
Yeah, no, they had, I think, I didn't see the video, but I know he was a big supporter of getting them in, and a lot of people aren't. And then Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machine was like the guy who basically got them in, because you know, Kiss musically, and I'm their biggest fan. You know, musically, it would be like trying to get Carrot Top into the comedy. I don't even think there is a comedy Hall of Fame, but you know,
it's tough to get Carrot Top into anything.
Well, I mean, especially a shirt, because he's really on that the juvie juice.
He really is. Buff. You think he's on some performance enhancing substances?
I mean, I know a lot about steroids, and then. You know, I would guess, and I don't want to get sued. And for the record, I think Carrot Top's very funny.
Right.
I mean, he gets a lot of shit because of the props, but you know, as you know, you don't sell out in Vegas without being funny.
That's true.
You know, may not be your type of humor. You know, I'm much more into like Norm Macdonald.
Right.
But I would say Carrot Top is on growth hormone, or was.
At some point, he had to be.
You don't get that big naturally. It's just impossible.
Right.
So
that's one thing that I've been learning lately, is that if a guy looks really, really big, I mean, and even if he's not a pro athlete or in show business, if there's a guy that's really, really, really huge, he's got to be on something, because there's only so much that lifting weights can do.
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm a big UFC guy. I don't do it. So, you know, I'm not into fighting, but I don't like pain. So
Right.
There's a guy by the name of Alistair Overeem who, literally was my size in 2003, and now he's like a black Incredible Hulk, and it's
Right.
and he denies being on anything, but it's like it's just I would love to get Rogan's take on like and he probably has a fine line to it's got to be tough for him to like be opinionated about steroids and whatnot when he basically works for the UFC.
Right. I think they're usually just as surprised as anybody, or maybe not, but I mean,
it would be like you talking poorly about the Comedy Store. Like if someone asked you an honest question about, hey, Tony, what do you think could be run better at the Comedy Store? And you're like, well, I don't want to bite the hand that feeds me.
Right.
You might have to skirt, around honesty.
Yeah, it is true. And, another thing is that you sort of don't want to, you sort of start to believe in something that believes in you anyway. So it also becomes like a one-sided type of thing where I don't know what his real take on steroids in the UFC is. But I mean, obviously, if those athletes are looking for an edge and testing's getting rougher, I mean, they're bringing it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, well, it's like pro wrestling. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, I don't know what their testing is, but it's pretty,
something. What do they call it? A wellness program?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Tell me, go look at Ryback. All right. And tell
my God.
Tell me that's a soy whey protein or whatever he's on.
Or that black dude who might be even Murray, not
Big E?
Yeah. I mean, that guy is, and that Russian guy now.
Rusev.
Who looks like he's from Mexico.
Oh, yeah, totally. But they're really playing that character up, too.
He, I can't get into wrestling these days. I just, like, he's clearly not from Russia.
Right.
He's like a Mexican or something. He picked up Big E and did a Chris Benoit suplex. And like, my God.
Yeah.
My jaw dropped.
Oh, these guys are insane.
At how you could like,
and that's also Big E's jumping into that with his legs that look like tree trunks. You know what I mean? So it's also just the fact that these guys are all helping each other out. It's just they're wider than they are even tall. Like Big E is like 5'2" in height and 6 feet wide of just pure muscle. Like it's insane. I
mean, I don't think I could pick you up and do that maneuver. I can't imagine what.
I'd jump into it. I'd make you look good. I'd what do they call that? I'd put on a good spot. I think they call it or something.
Yeah, no. Like I once tried to put Ricky Luna, the very funny comic from the Comedy Store. He's a pretty small kid.
Yeah.
I asked him if I could put him in the Razor's Edge.
Wow.
And I picked him up and my shoulder popped right as I had him like up, and I dropped him on his head in the parking lot. And
oh man, now doesn't he have HIV?
I mean, he says he does, and I don't know who would say that if they didn't have it.
It's not exactly the guy you'd want to go to with a razor's edge. You know what I mean?
See, that's Tony working right. That's called improv, guys. Two guys improving. I mean, yeah, I think he does have HIV, but hopefully he's got the magic kind.
Yeah, no, I'm sure he does. He's got the butt fucking HIV, not the.
I didn't know there was different kinds.
I don't know either.
Who knows? I thought I had AIDS once.
You did?
I honestly, and I'm not. I don't try and do jokes on here,
wow,
but
what kind of monster did you hook up with to where the next day you're thinking about that?
Well, I've been with some slobs, no doubt about it. But I don't think you're, I've seen some of the, you were quite the womanizer back in the day.
I was, man. I was new to Hollywood, and I was enjoying, I just sort of had a setup of, I had a gig working the door at the store. And when I worked there, I was just having a lot of fun. I was on cruise control because I knew if I just kept doing spots every week that I'd be good. So I would do spots, and the rest was just a party. I mean, I used to have a lot of fun.
Yeah, no, I mean, I remember one time I sent this broad up there to see me, And
Oh, did I do a little hijacking?
he tried to do an end around on me. She's like, "Hey, man, I came up here and asked for you, but Tony said you're not there right now, and why don't we go in the main room?" Yeah, because that is a benefit of the store. Is like you get spots. Most of the employees are comics, and the store is a very sexually charged atmosphere. And it's very competitive, I think.
Oh, definitely.
You know, if one guy sleeps with one girl, then you want to sleep with two girls, so you can have bragging right. Or,
right.
Probably
Totally.
not the best example, but
there's a lot of there's a lot of competitiveness at the store constantly. There's an on-stage thing, there's an off-stage thing, there's a girls thing, there's pretty much every sport is now being played at the Comedy Store. I'm surprised there's not like a weightlifting Comedy Store competition league. That seems like something that could easily be started. That seems right up your alley.
Maybe I could get passed if I won some weightlifting competition.
There's a softball league, a fantasy football league that has a championship belt that I'm currently the holder of.
Now, I had to quit fantasy football because I'm such a Steeler fan that I would literally sit out players who were playing against the Steelers. Of course, they'd have huge games, and I'd lose my fucking game that week. How do you have I'm assuming you're from Ohio, Cleveland, or Cincinnati, your team?
I'm actually Italian, so it's a weird thing. If you were raised around my time, no matter where you were raised around and you're Italian, you're by default a Miami Dolphins fan because of Dan Marino was the quarterback of the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, one of the
And so every Italian dad and mom in the country, if you were raised in, the 80s, early 90s, you're a Marino fan no matter where you grew up. So I'm actually a Dolphins fan.
Still?
I actually like college a lot more than the NFL. All my brothers and sisters and myself all went to the Ohio State University, and it's a little bit faster, more dangerous. I mean, not faster. I mean, the game speed is a little bit faster. The gameplay obviously isn't, but so I'm just a little bit more of a college football fan. The only reason I even got into this fantasy football league is when I saw a pro wrestling style championship belt with the Comedy Store logo hanging over the front bar. I said, I'm going to join this league and I'm going to win it. I named my team even just to mess with all the guys, the Hinchcliffe Winners. Everybody else has little funny, goofy names like Lee's Dead Baby Dust and, Tom's Truck Stop Team or whatever. And I just came right out the Hinchcliffe Winners and, really laid the smackdown. I was number one in the power rankings all season. And the reason why is because I obsessed about it for about an hour a day at the end of each night instead of, doing my usual reading of encyclopedias or whatever I normally do to end my night. I obsessed over wanting that belt. I saw I'm that big of a pro wrestling fan that I saw a belt with the Comedy Store logo, and I would have done pretty much any kind of competition to win it. And sure enough, luckily, because it is just a game, luckily I was able to seal it out in the end, and I got the belt. And they etched my team name on it, which is really funny because it says, like 2014 winners, the Hinchcliffe Winners. Like, it's really obnoxious.
Was there any money involved?
There was a little bit of cash, but again, like even that, it's just, that was just a bonus. It was just all about the belt. I'm just such a cheese ball with that stuff.
Now, how fun is it for you? We're both big wrestling fans.
Yeah.
To interact on a fairly often basis with Rowdy Piper, Hot Rod.
Unbelievable. In fact, last week for 2 days, for a few hours, I sat down helping him with his European tour he's going on next week, and we're meeting up again at the end of this week, but it's unbelievable. Again, here's one for you. This is a guy that flips a switch in his brain and he is a performer all of a sudden. He'll go from your buddy sitting right next to you, or you're having lunch with him, this and that. But when I go, all right, let's say that, why don't we talk about this and then that and then that and then that? And he goes, all right, I'm going to stand up here and do it. So we're in that main room empty during the day. I'm sitting down like in the front row audience section. He's on stage killing it. And I mean at 1,000 miles an hour. This is a guy who flips a switch in his head and is just in the moment and in character. And it's unbelievable. I mean, I was just talking last night with somebody about how I've gotten to meet all my favorite big celebrities at the store. Dave Chappelle, Jim Carrey. I mean, the Jim Carrey was the first funny man. When I was a kid, I used to just crack up at In Living Color. Howling. Quentin Tarantino. I met 2 Chainz, currently my favorite rapper. A bunch of like big celebrities who I'm a fan of.
John Rich, right?
Yeah. But nothing affects me like a pro wrestler. It's like seeing real life Mickey Mouse or somebody that really affected you when you were a kid. And nothing excites me more than that. In fact, when I saw Bret the Hitman Hart at the store, I ran into a bunch of stuff. Like, you ever see in a movie when somebody sees somebody that like they're nervous to be around and they fall back into something and make a bunch of noise and that's their first impression of the person? I fell into a sewing machine at the Comedy Store because I saw Bret Hart. Like, first I saw the jacket. I was making a routine walk to the back to smoke some pot and with the piano guy, Jeff Scott. And Jeff Scott's in front of me. We're just walking through that little area where the chandelier is and the stairways come down. I saw a black leather jacket. Out of my peripheral, my eyes sort of move up. I see black, stringy, wet-looking hair. And then when I saw that face, I flew back about 3 feet and just do-do-do-do-do-do. And Bret looks over. I go, "Oh, hello. Hi, I'm Tony." And Piper goes, "Tony, this is Bret Hart." And I'm just like, I couldn't even catch my breath. Same feeling at like the roast battle. I felt like it was 110 degrees and I couldn't catch my breath. And I was putting on a performance just to make it look like I wasn't about to pass out, is basically what was going on there. So nothing is like hanging out with pro wrestlers.
Which is funny to me because I don't imagine you ever getting starstruck. But
right.
Like, these guys are, I always say like they're like meeting superheroes like in the flesh, and I know how you feel because when I met the Ultimate Warrior, I couldn't look at him. Like,
you really did? Where'd you meet him at?
He did an autograph signing actually right up the street on Sunset. Wow. And was walking by this store one day and it said Ultimate Warrior signing, and I guess his manager owns this record store, so they did like a wrestling signing. And there was like 300 people. I was the last guy in line, just praying no one saw me waiting in line. And, I was nervous about meeting him because my friend used to be his lawyer. And he said, "Earl, you don't want to meet him. He's kind of, crazy and he's somewhat of a dick." And so, I was the last guy, and I go up the stairs and he's in full gear.
Wow.
The Speedos, the arm tassels, the boots, full makeup. And, I just stared at his feet. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Warrior, nice to meet you." And he's like, "Earl, thank you for coming. Do you want me to sign anything?" And he just started signing all these things. And I'm like, "Thank you, Mr. Warrior." And I couldn't look at him. It was like,
wow.
And I was like shaking. I was so fucking.
And, it really is. Again, I get starstruck at nobody. I could meet Obama tonight and handle it like a champ. But for example, another one that I just remembered about was Mick Foley came to the Comedy Store a couple months ago, and I couldn't talk to him. Yes. Everybody else went up and talked to him. People that like wrestling, less than me. But I could not bring myself to do it. I knew that I should. I knew that it'd be the right thing to tell him that I always have admired his amazing body of work.
Oh.
And I couldn't do it. Now, what's funny is that my agent and I had a talk last week, and he goes, "Hey, I represent Mick Foley as well, and he has some dates coming up at the Bray and Irvine Improv. Would you be interested at all in opening up for him? I don't know if you're a pro wrestling guy or not." And my jaw just dropped. You know what I mean? Because I realized, wow, this is it. And it's crazy because that is something that there's something to be said for, is that I really do believe in this weird, crazy world where there is no explanation for anything, that if you sort of just want something and you just are patient and you hold on to the hope and you really, really love something up here, that in a weird way, the universe does sort of open up weird opportunities like that. And when he said that, it all made sense. So I am going to be opening up for Mick Foley at the end of July at in Irvine and Brea, and that's going to be interesting because now I am going to have to. I can't even imagine the drive out there, by the way, because these are, but for the listeners, these are comedy clubs that are about exactly an hour away from here. So you always have a drive to these places, and and normally normally they're my favorites, the favorite drives. I'm always just thinking about how cool the life is that I'm driving there, going to do a spot, drive back, go to the Comedy Store, call it a night. But this one, the drive there, I'm going to be only thinking about Mick Foley questions, and not even questions, but like, because I'm not going to annoy him, obviously,
right.
But I'm just, I'm going to have little battle plans for what might come up and what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do and where I'm going to stand or sit or behave. And thank you, Mr. Foley. Do I say Mr. Foley? Do I say Mr. Mankind? I mean, I'm just going to...
Dude Love. Bang, bang.
Cactus Jack.
Yeah, I mean, this guy's like... This guy lost his fucking ear to wrestling. Like, it got caught in the cage, and I forget who he was wrestling. They went to throw him off, and his ear just stayed in the cage.
And that fall off the Hell in the Cell. Nobody had ever seen anything like that at the time. And every single time I see it, it's still just, I like tear up. I literally like tear up at his passion for wrestling and the fact that he would do that for the fans. That's all that is. That is a man going overboard for people like you and I so that we jump up out of the couch that we're sitting on, and that's what that's for. He didn't get a bonus for that. In fact, Vince told him never to do anything like that again because he doesn't want anybody dying on the show. But so Mick, that was just for us. You don't get a $5,000 Hell in the Cell jump off bonus check. That's the kind of guy that Mick Foley is, and that's the way that I look at things like that. And so I'm really looking forward to that.
I mean, I feel guilty for basically you and I and thousands like us are responsible for these guys' early deaths because it's like, if the man wasn't there for a bump like that or when he fell through the cage onto the thumbnails, they wouldn't do it. Which by the way is just as crazy as the other fall. I mean, it's only 3 or 4 feet less than the other one, and he goes straight down on those thumbtacks. Because you've wrestled, know that mat they're on, it ain't that forgiving. Well, here's the thing that people don't really factor in. Correct, the mat's not forgiving, the springs aren't really that forgiving, but what most people don't know about is it's actually your internal organs that have to bounce off of your back or your ribs every time that a fall like that happens. Like, even though your outside body hits, what you can't see is the fact that your kidneys and your liver and your lungs and your heart all have to take that same fall. So they're inside your body bouncing off of your spine and your ribs and your bones, and it ain't pretty in there. So it's often, what's really amazing about Mick is that there are, maybe I just don't know about it, but I mean, there had to be so many internal bleeding injuries, which are so scary and so amazing. But at the same time, when we're talking about guys dying young, and I think about this a lot because, again, stand-ups and pro wrestlers really aren't that far off. I mean, pro wrestling's obviously, and especially the WWE, a lot more extreme, a lot more work. But I don't know if a lot of them would do anything else. I think they love it so much. I don't think they're capable of doing anything else. Well, that too. Once you commit, I mean, all those guys had to commit at least, 5-10 years before getting in. I mean, But can you imagine it? Do you ever picture walking out of that gorilla area and all of a sudden one black curtain and then there you are? Do you ever picture that metal ramp down to the ring and what you would do and what you would be? I'd be a maniac, man. I mean, I can't imagine I mean, I know you've played in front of big crowds in front of Rogan. I mean, I played in front of some theaters with Schneider where it's like 2,000 people or whatever. And it's like, wow, it's like a sexual, it's like you're coming, but you're not coming. Oh. And it's the whole 20 minutes we're up there or however It's better than coming. You can come anytime you want. You can go to a public restroom and rub one out if you have to. And I've done it. Nothing beats that feeling of all those people. That's why I can't even imagine what these arenas must be like when it really pops and something really hits. Like,
a couple of things come to mind. When Daniel Bryan does that yes thing, that has to be the most rewarding thing ever.
Oh, yeah. Or like, what was I watching the other day? I still watch this when Hogan, the few times he passed the torch in the business to Goldberg, and when Mr. Perfect came out to like interrupt the match, and Karl Malone came out and gave him a diamond cutter.
Oh, yeah.
And then Goldberg spears him, and Goldberg, puts him up in that thing where he...
The jackhammer.
Right. But he would hold it for a second, and the crowd was like 60,000 people at the Georgia Dome. And it was like, I can't imagine what that would...
Oh, totally. Goldberg had it. Goldberg had all the pop in the world. He had me changing the channel for the first time ever.
Yeah, because he was like basically not a knockoff, but a, I think the WCW's answer to Steve Austin, who I think will be at the roast, from what I hear.
I heard that rumor too, and my mind will be blown. I can't even think about that yet because that's just too much for me to even comprehend.
Oh, yeah.
Being near Stone Cold is, that's too much. I can't even think about it. I don't even want to start thinking about it. I start either laughing or tearing up or something just by thinking about it. Like, it's so weird how these pro wrestlers affect me.
Oh, yeah,
it's unbelievable.
No matter how old you are, they're a product of your childhood.
You would think I'd be a pro wrestler, and that it would be that would be. I mean, and I would be, by the way, if I had any body or height whatsoever. I would totally just go do that and sort of do what I think Dolph Ziggler is not that far off from wanting to be a stand-up comedian that just has to do pro wrestling because he has a pro wrestling experience and body. But I wouldn't be surprised to see him at the Comedy Store in after his retirement. But my point is that I would just try to be the funny bad guy wrestler if I had the chance. And I think that since it's something that I physically and mentally can't obtain, that I look at it like this fantasy life. And,
but you could, though. I mean,
you really think so?
I mean, and this goes kind of hand in hand, I think, with comedy and the writing in pro wrestling. If you have a good storyline, anybody, like look at Spike Dudley. There's a dude. Now, he never was like a huge star, but like he was a skinny, not that you're skinny, but like he had your frame.
It's true.
And he made it to a pretty high level. You would think this guy would never be in a major storyline. And there he was.
Yeah.
And that's like, I think anyone in pro wrestling can be a star if they're given a good storyline.
Yeah.
I mean, would you ever think someone as short as Daniel Bryan would be the guy? He's the guy.
It's true. It's true. And look at Bray Wyatt. I mean, look at his body, normal looking guy, but he really has the technical side down of things. And, there's a few of them, but then you got those monsters in there. The great Khali standing 7'1", 7'2".
Oh, and just, like Dolph Ziggler's brother, he works out he used to work at Equinox, and, he's a wrestler too. And he's wrestled with the great Khali, and he's like, the guy doesn't know how strong he is. I mean, he's just, he said he would chop him and it would like just feel like a crane hit him. And I can't imagine, I mean, the great Khali's like legitimately like 7'2", 500 pounds, no fat.
Yeah.
Some of these guys, Chris Benoit doing those, suplexes.
Those German suplexes. He wouldn't let go of the waist. He would just keep popping you all the way over his body, and you'd land on the back of your neck.
And he would do it like 3 times.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't just one. It was like, I mean, I still want to know where the kid's tag team partner was, to make the save, when he killed him.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So,
he snuck one in on there.
Yeah, dude, that's on the slide. Dude. I mean, the crossface did work. I mean, we know that now.
Well, he was crippled.
Right. See, that's improv, guys. Just 2 guys like just taking something out of nothing.
It was a 2 against Benoit.
Right. I mean, I thought the kid, I don't know, someone would jump in off the crib and make the save. Yeah. But I love Bray Wyatt though. I mean, he's athletic though. You see that movie does where it's like a yoga pose.
He bridges up all the way like a spider, and he's my favorite right now. In fact, I had a pitch meeting with the WWE last week for a job. Did I tell you about?
I didn't know if we could talk about it because I know there's all confidentiality.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying, and I went in there and basically marked out for Bray Wyatt and told him that could be the future and that this and that, and I didn't hold anything back with my opinion of the fact that I think that's a guy that
he's a star.
Would be an amazing champion, and I mean, maybe not right now, but very, very soon, and I think they got to keep the momentum on him going, and I saw him at Money in the Bank 2 nights ago. I don't know if did you get to catch that?
I didn't, just because I'm, outside of him and maybe 1 or 2 other guys, I don't like the product.
No,
who won or?
Well, my point is that when Bray came out, his following is getting bigger and bigger. And there's a thing that happens now that when he comes out, fans started, I guess, a month or 2 ago, they would hold up their cell phones and sort of just slowly wave them
to the whole world in his hands.
Well, just to his entrance when he comes out. So it's pitch black dark, and he's walking out, and you see him with a lantern. And then when he's walking, you see the camera stay on that stage and in position, and you see all the place light up. And the commentators at Money in the Bank even had to acknowledge, like, his following is getting out of control because the whole stadium was lit up with people's cell phones just waving them in synchronization, and it's really powerful. Everything he does is something new that sort of hasn't been done before. So
he's got a great look, but I just worry that his look is kind of limited. Like after this whole Duck Dynasty thing blows over, it's like, okay. But it's hot. I like the other 2 guys. Who are the other 2 guys with him?
Lee Harper and Eric Rowan. Now, what's amazing about this Lee Harper guy?
Is that the guy with the black hair?
Yeah. Right. Is that this is the most agile big man I've ever seen. You gotta look it up sometime. Look at Lee Harper. You can go on YouTube and look up like Lee Harper moves or something like that, like or Lee Harper craziest moves. Right. Anyway, this guy 6'5", I do believe, 6'6", probably about 320 maybe.
Big guy.
Yeah, 320. Can throw you into the ropes and then hit a Hurricane Rana. Now, this is a maneuver that's normally done by the luchador wrestlers or smaller guys, much smaller guys. Right. It's when you jump up and your legs go over your opponent's shoulders. So you have to jump up that high, so higher than a drop kick, and you have to time it and everything. And then you spin and you flip them with your legs, from wrapping your legs around their head and scissoring their head and flipping. They do a flip, and nobody that big anywhere in all the years that I've watched wrestling can do that. So he can do it. And it's really something else. Both of those guys are doing moves that most big guys can't do.
Oh no, even like the other guy, it's just the look and
scary.
Kind of reminds me of a young Undertaker,
Exactly. And I think that's the thing that those 3 guys are really good at, is that Undertaker-esque type of darkness, but with the following. They weren't really expecting the Undertaker to become such a great good guy, but I mean, he was supposed to be villain all the way, but what are you going to do once you fall in love with somebody, once you really like him and you're rooting for him? It's fun to root for a bad guy once in a while, and those guys are right there, and then they're going to be around for a very long time. That Bray Wyatt is
he's great. Definitely
going to be around for the next 2 decades. So.
I mean, I remember the Undertaker in WCW when he was mean Mark Calloway.
Yeah, Mark Calloway.
I mean, WCW really had some great.
They had everybody at one point.
It's Austin when he was stunning Steve Austin in the Hollywood Blondes.
Yeah.
And well, I'm excited. I want to put your writing skills. I know you're a busy guy. We don't necessarily have to wrap up, but I always try and want the audience to go, I want that guy or girl back for another episode. So I don't like to blow it all out in one shot. But since we're talking about writing, comedy, wrestling, My favorite wrestler recently has just signed on to the WWE, the great Sting.
Ooh.
He actually, his first vignette was during the Warrior tribute, because they started together, and it was so weird to see Sting on, basically a WWE product for the first time. He's 54. He doesn't look as good as he used to. He's 54. How would you bring him in? Like, what storyline? You probably, before you say it, he's probably got one run in him before he wants to just retire. How do you bring him
in? That's an interesting one. Now, when you say he probably has one run in him, you mean a few matches, right?
Well, yeah, I was thrown for a loop because I thought the perfect angle before WrestleMania where Lesnar beat The Undertaker, which I was kind of a little shocked at.
Oh, yeah, I think everybody was.
I mean, Lesnar's a short timer. I mean, he doesn't really... he gets like one or two TV shows a month and basically does the bare minimum. I would think it would have been cool to, this is where my writing mind goes, like WrestleMania, Lesnar and The Undertaker are wrestling. All of a sudden the arena goes dark. And you see Sting drop from the rafters and like somehow fuck up the match. And then you do a whole year build up for him and The Undertaker.
Right.
But I guess that's something. I mean, I guess you could still do something like that. But
yeah, no, I would have loved that. No, I'm pretty sure Taker's done. I'm pretty sure we got to gamble on the fact that Taker is done. He did not look good in that match at all. I think something might be wrong.
I think they said that about halfway through, and he got a concussion because I mean, like we were talking earlier. I can't imagine what taking any move from Lesnar feels like.
Right.
Whether it be a clothesline or I don't know, just a toe hold would hurt.
No, yeah. I mean, that guy's a complete total package monster. I mean, that's a guy, Brock Lesnar is a guy who both the UFC and the WWE have bidding wars over every single contract extension.
Yeah, I mean...
Can you imagine being that guy to where you're so amazing that you're wanted on both the entertainment end of things and the actual fighting end? Like, that's covering all the bases.
I mean, I think Lesnar's problem in the UFC was he didn't necessarily like getting hit. I mean, who does? But
right.
I think like when that guy I was talking about earlier, Overeem, who beat him pretty badly, he gave him a liver kick, and you could literally see Lesnar go, "Ouch!" And then it was over.
Okay, I think I got it. I think I have the answer. It just hit me right now.
All right, so this is Sting's, the great Steve Borden's debut. If WWE, if you're out there listening, we should have hired this guy. I mean, it still might happen.
Yeah, I think so. We'll
Give
see.
it.
But here's what I would do is I would say Sting, what do we look at him as? The icon of the WCW. WCW, purebred, the one guy that we haven't seen wrestle a WWE match. Now,
never. And
right.
He's the only guy to never go to the dark side, so to speak.
Right. So I think that we're cutting. I think that something happens. Whoever the current champ is, ba loses to, I would say, the great Hunter Hearst Helmsley, Triple H, WWE royalty, the son-in-law of Vince McMahon, the COO of the WWE. And I think Triple H is the champ, and him and Stephanie and Vince come out one Monday night and they're just gloating, and they go, "We've run the gambit. We've beaten everybody and nobody's left. Not only do we run the WWE, we win at the WWE." And Triple H has taken down everybody. They do their McMahon stuff and drive the crowd crazy. And that's when lights out, down with the bat, with the bat. And I mean, bat versus sledgehammer match, Triple H versus Sting. Sting comes down and he goes, "You're right. You have beaten everybody. in the WWE, you know, and like imagine the pop of the crowd, right?
Oh, that would be huge. I'm tearing up right now.
Bat versus sledgehammer match. You know, put them both on a pole for the WWE Championship at, you know, I mean, that could easily be a WrestleMania. But it could also, you know, I mean, you could do that anywhere if they wanted to give somebody else a push for WrestleMania. But, you know, I mean, and even maybe not even for the belt. Maybe it's just Triple H just gloating one day, saying the wrong thing at the wrong time with the McMahons next to him. I've beaten everybody in the WWE. Oh, that's right. You have beaten everybody in the WWE. Like, I mean, that just sounds like it's got a great ring to it.
So, I mean, I think Sting's reluctance always in going over there was, one, he's a reborn Christian. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure he wasn't into the
Attitude Era.
You know, the bra and panties fucking mud wrestling thing and the gold dust homoerotic character.
Yeah.
But I saw in an interview that he was thinking one year about going over there, and he saw Booker T's first match when he came over from WCW, and he said The Rock, I think it was against The Rock, and he comes out and The Rock just looks at him and goes, "Who are you?" And Sting took that as, you just buried the guy and he's not even in the WWE for 5 minutes.
Right.
And I think that was his concern. But that would be, you know, because like with your storyline, I love it. I think it's perfect. Mm-hmm. But I have a hard time seeing Triple H not necessarily job to Sting. Like, I think Vince McMahon has this thing of somewhat bearing WCW guys, mm-hmm. and I'm sure Sting has enough creative control over, you know, his character to be like, hey, you're not putting me in a match with Hornswoggle,
right?
So it would be interesting to see who would win.
Well, what another big thing that I factor into that decision, and that you have to when you're thinking like this, is you got to put him up against somebody who's going to make him look good, right, and will make the other guy look good. And Triple H is, you know, even though he's never really been my cup of tea, you got to give credit to where it's due. And Triple H is definitely one of the best ever athletes and wrestlers, and just an absolute monster in the ring. So he'll make Sting look good. Sting will make him look good, because, I mean, Sting is Sting. And, you know, it could just get amazing, that battle. And I would say, yeah, you know, the way around that thing, and I totally agree with you, is Vince will mess with him in some way. And that's, you know, he would obviously get assaulted by Triple H a couple times. You know, he would take a sledgehammer to the knee, or, you know, during doing something else. You know, that's how they build all those things. So, you know, leading up to the match, he would get, you know, punished.
Yeah.
But that'll make it all the sweeter when he straps in that, you know, maybe he just holds on to the stinger drop and hits 3 of them in a row, sort of like that Benoit style, just keeps getting up with Triple H, the crowd just going crazier for each one. And 1, 2, 3.
I'm telling you, if Sting ever comes to the Comedy Store, I'll cry, man. That's the one dude I want to meet. Like, I'll never come off so gay.
Oh, I know. I mean, it's
I would just stare at him.
Right.
Sting.
Yeah.
Oh, my name's Steve. You can call me Steve. You're Sting. I mean, can you put me in a scorpion deathlock?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, but that's, you know.
Which, by the way, that would be, you know, that would have been, did they ever, I guess maybe they probably did it. They probably put Sting up against Bret Hart when they had him in the WCW.
Yeah, I think they might have been, you know, that was like when WCW was really off the rails.
Yeah, it was
like,
just too much.
You know, NWO had fucking Virgil in it. And,
oof.
You know, I mean, that was like so sad. They needed you to write those scripts or something, because that was like
Bischoff went a little bit crazy there.
Yeah, I mean, there was a great story in Jericho's book where he said he was negotiating with Bischoff, and, you know, Bischoff's like, "What do you want to get paid?" And he's like, "How about 90,000?" And Bischoff was like, "How about 170?" Like, he totally like just offered him. I mean, it was just it was such a, you know. It's got to be tough for wrestlers now. Like, you say a guy like Sting, there's really only the WWE to go to. It'd be like if you, as a comic, there's just a Comedy Store, right, and then your only other option was Sal's Comedy Hole.
Right. Yeah.
You know, that's the only thing I don't like. I wish TNA is not really TNA is like the ha-ha. I mean, it's just...
some competition would really... it always makes for better everything. I mean, WCW doesn't step up with the NWO and Goldberg at one point, and the WWE never even gets into their Attitude Era. We don't even know of a Stone Cold Steve Austin or a Rock or anything like that. You know, competition's definitely best for business, which is a big reason why I think the Comedy Store works so well. I don't think it's really talked about that much, that it's competitive. I don't think that anybody ever really mentions it out loud, but I think it's ridiculously competitive, and everybody's pretty much vying for just a few spots, which is between 9:30 and 11.
Oh yeah.
And everything else is sort of just everybody's paying their dues. You know, but competition's definitely best for business, and it would be cool if there was something else, but I mean, they got it right now. That's $1 billion company. They just got their own network. I mean, there's no doubt they have it. Do you have the network? It's the coolest thing ever.
Well, I don't know if I should say this over the air, but the certain comic we know who likes cupcake T-shirts gave me his password. So, I, when the Warrior died, he's like, "Hey, man, they did this whole 4-hour thing. You should check it out." And
there's a show you got to watch on this network. It's called Legends of Wrestling. You go to TV shows, you go to the Vault, and
so you have it. You have the network.
Yes, and it's the only thing that I even watch anymore. Now that Game of Thrones and Breaking Bad and House of Cards, all the shows that I like are off. So all that I do is I'll go watch an old wrestling and just fucking crack up.
I mean, my only problem, I watched like one brief clip of it, and like obviously Piper's a legend, and I don't know if I would say Howard Finkel. There had to have been someone else they could have gotten.
Oh, that's Legends House. That's the reality show. That's also unbelievably entertaining to me. And it gets better as each episode goes on that season. I know what you're talking about.
Pat Patterson. I mean, this guy was more known for Ring Boys than.
It's great. He comes out in the last episode.
Which that's got to be tough, and I'll try and intersperse this with the world of comedy. I mean, to be a gay comic, especially like at a place like the Comedy Store, it's probably tough to. It's such a macho, testosterone-based club that to be a gay wrestler, like legitimately, like that's gotta be tough to come out and say, "Hey guys, I like guys."
Right.
I mean, because that's kind of a homoerotic world itself. I would imagine it would be quite tough to come out.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't even imagine. But for Pat Patterson, who'd been in the wrestling business, 40, 50 years. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, he was gay.
And that's a business where it's not accepted. Whereas even the Comedy Store, I feel like, is a bit more tolerant than...
Barely.
Than the locker room at the WWE. I mean, had those guys known that they were getting, put in a camel clutch by a guy that wanted to put them in a camel clutch.
Yeah. At the Best Western. Because Canyon was gay. And I don't think a lot of people knew. And I think he killed himself.
Really?
Yeah, I think he passed away. I'm sure. And speaking of the guy who gave me the password, the cupcake man, Canyon had a lisp. And
he did.
But he was an amazing in-ring wrestler. And, he just never, kind of like Lance Storm. He never, it's weird how some guys just never get beyond a certain level.
It's true.
So, and that, probably the most memorable Lance Storm thing, and this goes to good writing, was when they said, or however they phrased it to him, we're going to make you super boring. And that was his character. It was being boring, and it was great.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, people got to revamp their characters as they go on. Even The Undertaker rode a motorcycle at one point. Hulk Hogan went NWO, Hollywood Hulk.
Do you think that's the greatest written storyline, turning Hogan bad? I think it is.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, I mean, when those and I'd argue that with almost anybody that's as good as it gets. That Bischoff pulled almost a 9/11 of wrestling, and it's just a day that anybody that was even close to being a wrestling fan at the time, it affected everybody. It's just so undeniable. And the Kevin Nash and Scott Hall coming over and going by their real names, it was reality before reality. Like it was that was foreshadowing of everything entertaining that was to come after that. There was something about finding out their real names that made it so cool. It made us feel like we were doing something wrong and naughty by watching that station who was making a good run at the Kings.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that's definitely the best. NWO coming in. I mean, they bought out their best guys. They bought the WWE's top echelon. That part of Mount Everest that's covered in snow, Ted Turner bought the WWE's version of that and just played with it like a toy.
Was like to me, to go up against the WWE now, then, or anytime really, you need four things. You need a short-term storyline, a medium one, and then a long-range plan, and the money to implement that.
Well, you gotta watch the show that I'm telling you about. It's not Legends House. It's called Legends of Wrestling, and it's on the network. And one of them is about, you'll see if you scroll through it. It's four guys and Jim Ross always sitting around a table just talking shop, and they go off on tangents about stuff that's just incredible. But one of them is about the NWO, and Bischoff's on the panel, and Michael P.S. Hayes is bothering him and really driving, oh, you tried to take our jobs, you tried to ruin our company. Like, it gets really passionate. It's amazing to watch. And Bischoff talks about creating it and how Ted Turner goes, what do we have to do to compete with Vince McMahon? And Eric just says, well, we need to buy some of their best people. Right. Ted goes, okay, great. Here's a check. What do you want? How much is that going to cost? Like, Ted wanted to destroy Vince McMahon, and they implemented a plan, and bing, bang, boom. Mind you, Bischoff started as just a part-time announcer, and he wasn't even good at it.
It was horrible.
He was a guy just good enough to hold on to the job, just long enough to write something else, to create something, and he changed the game forever. Now he's... and again, you want to talk about that Sting thing where it's like Vince McMahon loves messing with people. Oh, does he mess with Bischoff? Boy, oh boy, he doesn't give him anything. And even like for the things like on that Legends of Wrestling, when Jim Ross introduces him at the very, very beginning, he goes, we're here with our esteemed panel, ba from the great, fabulous Freebirds and wrestling creative consultant, Michael P.S. Hayes, former president of WCW, former leader of the NWO. Next time I'll try to get some credits for you that don't start in the word former. It's like it's just all ball busting on him. And,
no, I mean, to me, his greatest work, other than that storyline, was the swerve when he was the minister in Billy and Chuck's gay wedding.
Eric Bischoff?
Yeah, dude, it was the greatest.
God. I never even seen that.
Dude, I'm telling you right now, you must go home and YouTube this. Billy and Chuck are getting married, and this is when they had that tag team. The 3-minute warning. No, this is in WWE.
Oh, wow.
And Rico's the minister, or Rico's like the wedding planner who played I don't know if Rico was gay in real life. Mm-hmm. Do you remember Rico?
No.
You don't remember the guy with the big mutton chops, and he was a great wrestler. He just...
what part was this?
This was probably one of the biggest storylines of the last decade, because it got mainstream coverage when Billy and Chuck were it was a gay marriage.
Yeah.
And so they're doing this whole thing, and there's this really old minister, and he's shaking like this, like he has Parkinson's. And Billy and Chuck are about to get married, and he's like, a marriage can last 58 years or 3 minutes. And he drops the Bible, and he's like, wait a minute. Did I just say 3 minutes? And then they come out, and he takes off his mask. Dude, it's like the whole crowd is like,
wow.
I'm tearing up, man. It was so fucking funny. And then there's another guy who's died, Rosie and Jamal. Who was the guy who died? It was Rosie. He was like not Kamala, but he was like the Samoan guy with the paint on his face.
Oh, the barbarian?
No, he was like one of the last. God damn it, I hate blanking. He had a name like Kamala. After
Kamala.
He was Rosie and Jamal, he was like he died recently. He picked up Stephanie McMahon and power bombed her, and it was just great theater. And
yeah.
So please, dude, you will love Billy and Chuck's Gay Wedding.
Oh, I'm definitely gonna look that up.
All right, now what I want to wrap up with is your podcast, Kill Tony, which I've had the privilege of playing the Iron Patriot on a few times.
And you've been on the panel as well.
I've been on the panel. What I like about it is you're giving these young. Describe the premise of the show.
Well, comedians watching newer comedians. I always have two of my funniest pals come on, and we sit there and we watch newer comedians, brand new comedians sometimes, do a minute of material, and then we talk to them about what they're working on and stand up and this and that. So sometimes the new comedians are funny. Sometimes we make fun of them, and sometimes we help them out. And, it's always just a bunch of fun stuff going on. We have a head of security. I work with the great Brian Redban, who's the co-host of the Joe Rogan Experience and the founder of the Death Squad podcast network. And so he brings some lighthearted, goofy, immature comedy to the table, and we just talk shop. Anybody who loves stand-up comedy at all will love the podcast Kill Tony.
And how do they listen to it? I know
you can find it on iTunes. You can go to deathsquad.tv and actually watch it. It's very fun to watch. Maybe watch one and then listen to another one, because then you could sort of get the idea of what it looks like. But there's a lot of fun stuff going on. We just did an episode with Joe Rogan and Dom Irera, so that's very powerful. And so many great episodes out there. Earl's on one, Jeff Ross, Mark Maron, Doug Benson. So many great episodes. We headlined the LA Podcast Fest. That's a good one to watch. But we just did episode 58, so there's a lot of options out there for you. It's an hour and a half long. It's always fun, and it's one of the top comedy podcasts on the Death Squad network. So
and on iTunes in general, it's one of the top ones. So, and how do people find you on Twitter?
I'm at Tony Hinchcliffe. That's all one word, Tony, H plus Inch, Cliff plus E, Hinchcliffe. You can spell it perfectly.
And how do you go about buying the Golden Pony t-shirts?
You can get either one, the Golden Pony t-shirt or the Chalkboard Equation t-shirt, all at TonyHinchcliffe.com. They are flying off the shelves like hotcakes, literally, because hotcakes don't sell that well, and neither do my t-shirts.
Yeah, no, you're selling good.
No, they're good.
So find Tony Hinchcliffe on Twitter. He's going to be the next big thing in the world of stand-up. He's got this great presence, and he's really. You should see him live. It's.
Thank you, Earl. It's just so nice. I don't think I've ever hung out with you during the daytime before.
Well, I mean, I'm trying to get it going. Hanging out with a guy like you, and then Benji and Matt Edgar and some of the younger bucks has motivated me to maybe get a little more serious about the business and all that stuff. So I'm like. Like when the Spirit Squad was roaming around, you guys are my Spirit Squad, and I'm like, Scott Hall. I'm like, I need to get it together a little more. So, as you can tell, my podcast isn't quite up to snuff with yours and others, with phones ringing in the background, and my dog Lois playing with her chew toys in the middle. I really appreciate you coming down.
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, dude, you're the best. We're at an hour and 45 minutes. I don't want to stop, but I know you got things to do, and I want people to say I want Tony back. So
right.
This has been Inappropriate, Earl. We're on SoundCloud, and for you Steve Jobs bone smokers, you can still go on iTunes and look up Inappropriate Earl. Don't look up Earl Skakel, because my shitty comedy album pops up, which has probably sold less than the Golden Pony t-shirts. Leave a review, bad or good. I leave them all up, and get get on the Tony Hinchcliffe bandwagon, Comedy Central roast, roast battles, Joe Rogan, Jeff Ross, he's the real deal. My name's Earl. Next week, hopefully the singer from Rat, the great Stephen Piercy, will be in-house. We're going to break down his career, and a shout out to Stevie Rochelle from the great band Tough for providing the music to Inappropriate Earl. The great intro and outro song is Forever Yours, which came out right after Poison's debut album, so it felt like a brick after that happened. So thank you, Stevie. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll be on the internet super highway real soon. Yeah.